His life was stripped away from him and he was labeled a predator, all for a crime he didn't commit. Earlier, Tori and Lindsay spoke with Roosevelt Glenn about his real-life nightmare. That's today's Freedom Files.
Driving home in the middle of the night, a 27-year-old woman pulls up to a stoplight. Her car is suddenly hit from behind. As she gets out to check for damage, a man grabs her purse and then drags her to his vehicle. There are 5 men in the car, and they all take a turn raping her. She's eventually released, a pair of green one-piece coveralls left covering her face.
I had just completed my 8-hour shift, and at that time, me and a couple of my co-workers had decided to cash our checks that night.
The ride, carrying 27-year-old Roosevelt Glenn, overheats, forcing them to pull over and walk to a nearby gas station. They call Glenn's girlfriend, who then picks them up. As they return to the broken-down car, they notice it's been robbed.
He was telling us that his window had been broken out, and our work garments and duffel bags had been taken out the car.
Police traced the coveralls left with the victim to Glenn's place of employment.
And when they came in, they began to name names, and they was like, Roosevelt Glenn, get on the ground. And I thought it was a joke.
Glenn and 4 of his co-workers are arrested. Detective Michael Solon is the lead detective on the case.
They told me to just shut up with the N-word, so that's when I got quiet, because then I became afraid.
Testing reveals 3 separate DNA profiles, but none of them belong to the men arrested. A state expert testifies that a hair found on the victim's sweater is similar to the hair of Glenn. Then they pit the negative DNA test against serology, a test that examines blood types.
We were not excluded because our blood type. I was type O, they found type O.
The jury is unable to reach a verdict and the judge declares a mistrial. But police don't let up, trying Glenn a second time.
I was like scared. I was ready to run. And my uncle, he told me, if I didn't do it, continue to fight.
The second jury finds Glenn guilty of rape, but acquits him of robbery. He is sentenced to 36 years in prison. Glenn quickly learns his innocence isn't something to brag about with other inmates.
And one guy came to me and he told me, he said, hey man, look, you got an out date, but nobody here has an out date. So quit crying about your 36 years. And so from that point on, I didn't even talk about it.
Glenn's sister becomes his biggest advocate, convincing a professor from the Wrongful Conviction Clinic at Indiana University's McKinney School of Law to investigate his case.
It was like a dream. And when they showed up, I was like, my dream has come true.
After 15 years in prison, the hair is retested and is not a match. But Glenn remains behind bars. 2 years later, Glenn is released on parole.
I was forced to attend therapeutic classes for rapists, child molesters, incest. I was forced to register as a sexual violent predator.
While out, new technology is used to retest the DNA samples.
But all his technology has convicted people at that time. And we would be the first ones that he used it to exonerate.
The results? Find DNA of 5 people, 3 coming from the same family. None of the results match Glenn. In 2017, Glenn's conviction is vacated and the case against him is dismissed. Finally, the chapter that labeled an innocent man a predator is closed.
Glenn, thank you so much for being here on DBL. Let's talk about Detective Solon right away. You are free, you are an innocent man. But after your release, the detective said he still believes he arrested the right men for the crime. Why, Glenn? Why do you believe he has such tunnel vision?
He got tunnel vision from the beginning, I believe, because it was reported that 5 black men had assaulted a white woman. And when he found coveralls that linked to the steel mill where I worked, he didn't want to go any other way. He just felt that he had the right men, even though we were citizens without any type of records or anything like that, and we had alibis. He was just so gung-ho on getting us that he didn't look nowhere else.
Wow. I would look at all his past cases. What would your feeling of justice be in this case for you?
It couldn't be any justice.
Right.
Because I lost everything.
Yeah.
You know, I lost my pension, 401ks, retirement. I lost everything. So justice is just hard for me.
Yeah.
I lost a relationship with my children. You know, I can't get that time back.
We really appreciate your transparency, and it absolutely is helping other people. And to share your comeback story has to be a source of inspiration for so many. But you've also been open about the darkness in prison, even saying that you attempted suicide. So why did you believe ending your life was the best decision?
I was watching people go through violence, you know, being attacked a lot and stuff like that. And me being in there for a rape, I just figured it was a matter of time, you know, before someone come at me.
Wow.
So in those moments of depression, those thoughts come to your mind. But fortunately, I put my faith in God. And by putting my faith in God, I believe that's when I received the power to endure the 17 years without hurting myself. And I believe he put a hedge of protection around me. And I never was hurt.
Wow.
So I was just holding on to my faith.
You know, you've been very vocal for justice reform since your release. What specifically do you want to change within our justice system?
Every state should have some type of compensation when they've taken people's lives away in their livelihood, holding people accountable for their actions. Junk science, you know, the junk science is ridiculous, and we need a change, and it's going to come from legislation.
You are amazing. We want to thank you for being here to our DBL Nation. To learn more about Glenn's story, get his book, Innocent Nightmare, Roosevelt Glenn. It's available on Amazon. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.